Hey guys, I'm back with another Batmobile, and this time we're going to be taking a look at the Eaglemoss Batmobile from Batman number 575. This is the Batmobile that debuted at the turn of the century. It came out right after the No Man's Land saga. No Man's Land was a year-long story that basically dominated all of the Batman books in 1999, and some of the plot points in the overarching story can actually be found in the movie The Dark Knight Rises. In the story, there's this natural disaster that basically cuts off and isolates Gotham City from the rest of the world. And this same natural disaster wreaks havoc on the Batcave and destroys the Batmobile. So after the fallout of No Man's Land, Batman rebuilds the Batcave and he comes out with this new Batmobile. Now, this Batmobile actually debuted in two books in March of 2000. The first was Batman 575, which was officially the first book to give us a glimpse of this new car. And the second book was Detective Comics number 742, which was a story that basically centers around Commissioner Gordon and his return to service after the events of No Man's Land. That one's a really gritty and understated story. Now, even though this is obviously a Batmobile, it's one of those designs that looks like a straight-up sports car to me. The design of this Batmobile is kind of like a coupe, but the top has the option to be a convertible if necessary. The magazine mentions how that's one of the many voice-activated features in the car. And it has some classic crime-fighting bat accessories like a police scanning system. And I like how the magazine points out that this Batmobile had Wi-Fi, so that it could communicate with the computer in the Batcave. And, you know, in 2000, it was a big deal to have Wi-Fi on board in your car, right? It also has some standard features like bulletproof plating, medical sensors built into the driver's seat, and a harpoon gun. Now, this is a neat little model, but the thing that really caught my eye with this one was the 3D lenticular for the issue. It has this really cool image of Mr. Freeze outside the Gotham City Zoo. Now, Eaglemoss always creates a diorama that displays a scene related to the Batmobile, and for the life of me, I couldn't figure out where this scene came from, because you barely see this Batmobile in Batman number 575, and you only get a few specific shots of it in Detective Comics number 742, and I couldn't find a storyline with Mr. Freeze anywhere near those two issues. So I actually ended up contacting the guys at Eaglemoss. I sent them a message through their Batman Automobilia Facebook page, basically just asking if they could tell me where the image comes from, and they graciously contacted their art department and quickly wrote back with some great information. It turns out Batman used this version of the Batmobile for quite a while. The car debuted in 2000, but this scene in the lenticular is actually from Batman Legends of the Dark Knight number 190, which came out 5 years later in June of 2005. It's a great two-part story, and there are some really strong images of the Batmobile in both issues. The scene in the lenticular comes from several panels at the beginning of the story where Mr. Freeze has just broken into the Gotham City Zoo. Now, Eaglemoss used an artist by the name of Kev Hopgood to create the image on the lenticular. Oftentimes, specific panels in the books, they won't work with the diorama. So what they'll do is they'll hire a talented artist like Hopgood to recreate a particular scene in a way that fits the dimensions of the display. I'm sure they've used Kev Hopgood before because the art style looks really familiar to me. It's so cool. I love this one. The image of Mr. Freeze just kind of lurking over the broken wall is just awesome. Again, it's the thing that really caught my eye with this one, and it's one of the main reasons why I love this diorama. So let's take a closer look at this model of the premier Batmobile of the 21st century. The construction is pretty similar to all of the other Eaglemoss models. It's mostly die-cast. It has a few plastic highlights like the fins and the headlights. Of course, it has rubber tires. If you do get a hold of this model and you decide to take it out of the display case, just be very careful with it. These side mirrors are very delicate, and I can see them breaking off easily. It's very accurate, though, to what we see in the comics. It looks great. I love the fact that they have the mirrors in there. And I also like the detail on the inside of the rims of the tire. Now, this model of the Batmobile is just jet black, right, all the way throughout. There's not a lot of color to kind of break it up, but the mold and the detail that they put into it is still very nice. Of course, you have the battering ram on the hood, and you have the bat tail fins in the back. And supposedly, Batman could actually retract like the fins in the back, and he could actually make the Batmobile look like a regular street car. In closing, I think this is a great display piece from Eaglemoss. Like many of the Batmobiles in this line, this one really isn't meant to be handled or played with. I think just because there are some parts that are kind of fragile. That's why it literally is a display piece. And I think the fantastic artwork of Mr. Freeze in the lenticular, it really adds to that display quality. Let me know what you guys think about this one. As always, I hope you take the time to rate, comment, subscribe, and maybe check out some of my other recent videos. So, we've been looking at the Eaglemoss Batman Automobilia Issue number 7, the Batmobile from Batman number 575. Thanks again for watching, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.